Okay. I'm just gonna be ready. Hi everyone. Today I'm going to be talking about this book, Women Who Run with the Wolves. It's by Clarissa Estes. And I'm going to be talking about chapter 3. This chapter is really, really interesting. And it's mostly about the story of Baba Yaga. It's a Russian folktale. And Vasilisa the Wise, it's the girl in the story, the main character. So here's a setup, okay? So Vasilisa, she loses her mom. Before the mother dies, she gives Vasilisa a doll. She says, feed it, ask it, trust it. And then Vasilisa is thrown into this really tragic life where um, she basically has a stepmom. So she has a stepmom, and then she has three stepsisters. Okay? And these three stepsisters and the stepmom treat her poorly. If you are familiar with the story of Snow White, then you probably know how the story ends. But this one has a twist, okay? This has a psychological twist to it. And I think you're going to like it. So Vasilisa is left with this doll, and and she has this doll, and it guides her basically. So she has this doll that was left to her by her mom, and her mom left this doll to her on her deathbed basically. So, and this is the book. I will be referencing this book once again. So when Vasilisa, so the stepmom and the stepsisters, they actually I think there's two stepsisters here. Let me see. But before I go into that, I want you to look at this line right here. It says, "Here are my last words, beloved. Should you lose your way or be in need for help, ask this doll what to do. You will be assisted. Keep the doll with you always. Do not tell anyone about her. Feed her when she is hungry. This is my mother's promise to you, my blessing on you, dear daughter." So these sentences are crucial. They're basically the main theme and the main point of this story. But when the stepmom comes in, they treat Vasilisa really badly, like I said. And one day they send Vasilisa to get fire from the woods. And they fake a fake, um, we don't have any fire scenario. And they send this girl, Vasilisa, to the woods to get fire. So what happens is Vasilisa, she says yes, obviously. She says, well, all right, yes, I'll do that. And then she goes. Vasilisa, she carries the doll with her and she says, just touching this doll, yes, I feel better. So she has the doll with her. So the doll goes with her to the woods. It's in her pocket and she always carries it. So, and then every time Vasilisa is faced with, a decision she has to make, she touches the doll. Once she touches the doll tells her where to go, which way to turn to. Then she comes to this house that is really creepy and really weird. It's Baba Yaga's house. It sits atop huge, scaly, yellow chicken legs, and she um, and it walks all by itself, and sometimes it twirls around and around like an ecstatic dancer. The bolts on the doors and shutters were made of human fingers. Okay, so remember the bolts, okay? The bolts are made, oh my god, this is so creepy, of human fingers. Um, so, uh, so Vasilisa meets Baba Yaga and she calls her grandmother and she tells her that she comes for fire. She says, "My house is cold, my people will die, I need fire." And then Baba Yaga says, "Oh yes," she says, "Oh yes." And she emphasizes this because Baba Yaga is, she knows, okay, later on there's going to be a twist to this. And you will see the reason why Baba Yaga says this. Um, so Baba Yaga basically questions her. She says, you know, why do you think I should give you this fire? Why do you deserve it? Um, And Vasilisa says, because I ask for it. Basically, she says, because I ask. And then Baba Yaga says, you're lucky. That is the right answer. But of course, Baba Yaga doesn't give the fire to her for free, right? So what she does is she asks, she demands that Vasilisa in turn do some chores for her, like cooking, feeding, cleaning, and all of that. And Vasilisa gets only the scraps of the food that she cooks for Baba Yaga. So later on, Vasilisa does get the fire that she asks from Baba Yaga, but there's an important quote here that I um, want, wanted to bring attention to. She says, may I ask you some question, grandmother?" And then Baba Yaga says, "Yes." Um, but the exact part, so Baba Yaga gives the fire to Vasilisa, and she says, there's your fire. Don't say another word. Just be on your way." So Vasilisa wanted to thank Baba Yaga, but the little doll, okay, the little doll in her pocket, she was like, "No, you're not gonna thank Baba Yaga. You're not gonna make a mistake." And it tells her to basically be quiet. Take the skull with the fire in it with her and take it back to the village to the stepmom and the stepsisters. And when Vasilisa comes into the house, she feels proud, she feels happy that she's accomplished this, but the skull on the stick watches the stepsisters and the stepmothers every move and it burns them, okay? Um, by morning, it had burned the sisters into uh, cinders, basically. And yes, there's two stepsisters, not three. Okay? So, what this book does a really good job of um, is it analyzes everything in a psychological aspect. Okay? So, the doll represents the intuition a woman has, basically. Every woman is given, um, like, is given intuition. It's passed down like a domino effect through generations. Every woman passes it down to the woman that comes in her family. And it says here, nothing was ever lost in the psyche. Um, so everything that's in the psyche stays there, basically. And it analyzes all the tasks that have happened in the story. And the first task is to allow the good mother to die. You know, we're all born with um, this good mother inside of ourselves, right? So, and you might say, well, what about the kids who don't have moms? This is more of a psychological perspective. Everybody is born with a good mom. A This is not literally could be metaphorical as well. So the initiatory process begins when the dear and good mother dies. So she's not there to touch Vasilisa's hair anymore. Vasilisa doesn't have this good mom anymore, okay? She doesn't have this mom who can take care of her, who can love her, and, stroke her beautiful hair. She doesn't have that anymore. What she has is this doll, and she must follow the orders that this doll gives her, because that's how she finds her path, the correct path, basically. um and I want to read this to you. Accepting that the ever watchful, hovering, protective psychic mother is not adequate as a central guide for one's future instinctual life. The too good mother dies. Okay, so when the mom dies, Vasilisa, like I said, is all on her own, and she needs to mature and evolve all on her own. And her initiation, okay, there's an initiation going on, and that happens um, when she learns to let die what must die. And I'm sure many of you can relate to this, because um, everyone has someone or something, a job or something in their life that is keeping them back. It could be something positive, it could be a um, positive enabler, if you want to say that. It could be a job that keeps you in your comfort zone. But what one must know is that letting that die is the only way that you're going to be nudged into this initiation process. So, like it says here, so, and then Vasilisa is left with basically no attitude, because everything Vasilisa was based on her too good mother, right? And now she doesn't have this personality. She doesn't have um, the tools to use. The only thing she does have is this doll. And it says here, she must set for herself a something in life that she is willing to reach for, and therefore take risks for. It is through this process that she sharpens her intuitive powers. So when Vasilisa accepts to go into the woods, I mean, she may sound and look dumb. She may sound and look naive. I mean, why would she accept something this degrading from the stepsisters and the stepmom? Why didn't she say no? Why didn't she stand up for herself? And this is when the author states that this must happen. Like, this was supposed to happen. She was supposed to go into the woods, into the dark, into the unconscious, and get this initiation going. And the author says that it is typical for women to be afraid to let the too comfortable and too safe life die. Like I stated, she must just simply dive in and stand, not knowing what will happen next. And this touches on the idea, specifically in psychology, that uncertainty, for example, being able to be okay and sit with uncertainty, that's actually a really, really hard thing to do, right? It's not easy. It's easy to say, but it's actually really, really hard, um, because you don't know what's going to happen, right? And that's where anxiety comes from. Um, And she says that sometimes women, specifically, we're taught in this society that women, as women, we are so caught up in being the good um, person and being tied to the good mother, right? Doing everything for others, our kids, our husbands, our job, our work, whatever it is, your neighbor, your friend, you're always trying to be the good person, and that's what's holding you back. And she divides these into tasks, right? So that was the first task, which is letting what must die. The second task is to expose the crude shadow. Basically, the bad, rotten stepfamily marches into Vasilisa's world, and it begins to make her life miserable. So So she says finding that being good, being sweet, being nice will not cause life to sing. Vasilisa becomes a slave, but it does not help. And I'm sure many of you can relate to this. When um, when has being a slave, right? Not literally, but um, being so being so nice to other people and being so productive under other people's circumstances. That has never and will never come back to you in a positive way. It will never uh, be a good investment for yourself. And this is what the author says. Um, she says Vasilisa is disenfranchised, for she inherits and is inherited by a family that cannot understand or appreciate her. I mean, as far as they're concerned, she's unnecessary, right? They hate and revile her. They treat her as the stranger, the untrustworthy one. Um, and this is crucial, right? In fairy tales, the role of the stranger or the outcast is usually played by the one who is mostly deeply connected to the knowing nature. And Vasilisa is not appreciated in this house. She is not loved. She's hated. They don't want her there. They don't value her at all. They just want to use her. And that's how society is, right? It's hard to accept this, but many people don't have your best interest. They don't want to help you. They want to bring you down. And especially if there are people who are with you on your worst days and not there when you are being successful or happy, then you know for a fact that those people are not good for you. So if you have somebody, right, if you have somebody with you who is always there to listen to you when you are going through something, but they're never there or they never match your energy when you are succeeding in something or when you are just being just happy, content, and they don't match your energy, then you know that you need to let those people go. Let's see. And this is what the author says. Once again, this is Clarissa Estes, and she says that the reward for being nice nice in oppressive circumstances is to be mistreated more. So it's not like if you're nice to whatever situation you're in. Let's say you're nice to your boss, right? You do whatever your boss says. It's not like it's going to stop the oppression, the way that boss treats you negatively. He or she will not stop after a month or a day or whatever. It's going to trickle down into later behavior. It's going to exponentially rise and increase, and it's going to get worse. So there's no investment there at all. She also says women who are raised in families that are not accepting of their gifts often set off on tremendously big quests over and over, and they do not know why. They feel they must have three PhDs or two masters or hang down from Mount Everest, is what she says. This is funny. And it's so true. I mean, as women, we feel like we always have to prove ourselves. We always have to be accepted and ask, will you accept me now, basically. Um, let's see. She says that we have to leave the chorus of um, detractors and plunge into the woods. There's no way to both stay and go. Now, this is crucial, okay? There's no way, uh, there's no way that one both stay and go. Why is this such an important um, idea? Because it's incongruent. If you choose to stay but complain about constantly going, leaving, or the behavior, that's not congruent with your being, your spirituality, your mental state. It's not congruent, and it's going to cause you to be unhappy and bitter and miserable. If you want to stay, then you accept whatever circumstance you're staying in and you stay there. But if you want to go, you cannot go and stay at the same time. You must go. You must step into the dark woods. You must take the first initiative, scary, uncertain move that feels like it's going to swallow you whole. You must go into that void. That's the only way if you want to escape the enslavement that you've been in. And that's what Vasilisa does. She needs guiding, and she cannot develop standing around being everybody's boot jack. That's what the author says. Women who try to make their deeper feelings invisible are deadening themselves. So the more you let go of your deeper feelings, and this is where this idea comes in, right? The more you are incongruent with your behavior, the more you are basically deadening yourself, right? You're becoming a zombie. You're physically there, but inside you're not there anymore. You've sacrificed yourself for other people. And the light goes out, and it is painful, right? It's painful to do that, actually. It's very painful. So the third task is navigating in the dark, right? Um, so Vasilisa has this doll. She's in the woods, and I bet she's scared. She feels uncertainty. She doesn't know where to go, but she's listening to this doll, right? She shifts the power to the doll. The doll obviously represents intuition, right? So the doll represents intuition. Um, and dolls are used by, the author states that they're believed to be infused with life by their makers. They are used in rites, ritual, hoodoo, love spells, and mischief. They're used as markers of authority and talismans to remind one of one's own power. So, and she states that the doll represents the inner spirit of us as women. So the voice of inner reason, inner knowing, and inner consciousness. Let's see. So she states here that intuition is handed from parent to child in the most simplest ways. And I agree with this. I feel like um, I've observed that when parents give the choice or ask good questions to kids, such as you have good you have good judgment. What do you think lies behind lies hidden behind all this? For example, if your kid comes to you and they talk about a situation at school or with their friends, um, and you basically include them, you give them a voice, you give them power, you recognize and see that they are able to use their intuition. And you first you acknowledge it by saying you have good judgment, and then you ask, what do you think lies hidden behind all this? What do you think this means? That helps uh, for them to think, use their brain, use their intuition, use their discernment to create solutions, to trust their gut rather than having no trust in themselves. And this is how a sense of self is created. And she says here that intuition is exactly like that. Without food, without employment, it atrophies, it goes down, it lessens, it decreases. Um, so the dolls serve as talismans. Talismans are reminders of what is felt but not seen, what is so but is not immediately obvious. And Vasalisa trusts this doll. She asks this doll, should I go left or right? And the doll answers her, and she follows the doll's answers. So Vasilisa starts with this flattened out, mundane personality, right? Like I said, she has basically no personality. She just does whatever the people in her house, the stepmom and the stepsister, tell her. She has no personal autonomy, no agency. And when she goes to the Baba Yaga's house, so the author basically says that Baba Yaga is the marrow of Wild Woman. And we know this from her knowledge of all that has gone before. Remember when I said that she says, "Oh, yes, I know who you are," something to that line? It's because Baba Yaga knows. She knows Vasilisa. She knows the people, the village she lives in, and the type of people that live in that village. She's the keeper of the sky and the other earth beings. But she is fearsome. She is somebody that people are scared of, right? Um, and the author says to gaze into her face is to see eyes of blood, the perfect newborn child, and the wings of angels all at once. So, and Vasilisa, what she does, she's so brave that she stands there and she accepts the wild mother divinity, right? Warts and all. So the Baba Yaga, although, and this is where the author and this analysis differs from what I've seen in folk tales, right? So this story might have been told to you when you were a kid, but this is where it's different. The Baba Yaga is usually the evil one. She's the other, she is the strange one, the one who is not a good person, the one you fear, right? The story could have been told to you to stop you from going outside and meeting strangers. But in this perspective, in this lens, the author says that Vasilisa stands there and accepts the wild mother divinity, right? Baba Yaga is wild mother divinity. Um, she threatens, but she is just. She is just. Um, and respect in the face of great power is a crucial lesson. A woman must be able to stand in the face of power because ultimately some part of that power will become hers. And that's what Vasilisa does. She faces Baba Yaga, she accepts her in all her ugliness, her fearsome nature, and all her evilness. She accepts her. And And the author says that to face the wild power in ourselves is to gain access to the myriad faces of the subterranean feminine. These belong to us innately, and we may choose to inhabit whichever ones serve us best at whichever time. And once again, Baba Yaga is wild woman in the guise of the witch. All right, like the word wild, the word witch has come to be understood as a um, long pejorative. But long ago, it was an appellation given to both old and young women healers. Right. So the witch derived from the word wit, meaning wise, And this was before the one God only religions began to overwhelm the older um, wild mother religions. So, and the author says that a good deal of literature on the subject of woman's power states that men are afraid of woman's power. And she says that um, she says that uh, she always wants to, so many women themselves are afraid of women's power. And this is true, because so many women are afraid of other women's power. Because usually in society, when a woman sees another woman succeed or do a good job, so many times the first reaction could be jealousy, hatred, wanting to bring the woman down, and no support of what that woman is doing. And the author says that the old feminine attributes and forces are vast and they are formidable. Um, and she says that it is understandable that the first time they come face to face with the old wild powers, both men and women take one anxious look and make tracks. All you see of them is flying paw pads and frightened tails. So this is part one of the story. So we're on the fourth task, and there's 9 tasks in total. So the other tasks I will have to do in another video. Thank you for listening to me, and I guess welcome to my channel. Let's see how this turns out.